They made her stand in the road so everyone could see. Dust clung to the hem of Lena's dress, worked into the fabric where it had once brushed clean floors. The sun sat high and unforgiving, and the Graysons did not bother to step out of its glare. They formed a loose half-circle around her, close enough that she could smell starch and leather, far enough that no one would mistake this for concern. "You heard us," Mrs. Grayson said, her voice smooth and measured, as if she were discussing the weather. "There's nothing left for you here." Lena opened her mouth, then closed it again. The words she needed were scattered somewhere behind her ribs, tangled with grief and shock. Her husband's name rose first, uninvited, followed by the memory of his hands on the fence rail, the way he used to nod at passing riders. That life felt unreal now, like something borrowed and taken back without warning. Mr. Grayson cleared his throat. "The land was always ours. Temporary arrangements have ended." Someone laughed softly, not unkindly. Worse than that, casually. They listed what she would not be keeping. The house she had cleaned and cooked in. The tools she knew how to use better than most of them. Even the small things, spoken aloud so they could be stripped of meaning before they were taken. A blanket, a lamp, a box of letters. Mrs. Grayson bent, lifted Lena's worn bag, and dropped it at her feet. The sound it made was dull, final. "You should be grateful," she said. "We're not sending you away with nothing." Lena stared at the bag. It was lighter than it should have been. Lighter than her life had been just days ago. Her face felt hot, but her hands were cold. She sensed people watching from a distance, neighbors who would later say they had nothing to do with it, that it was family business. She did not cry. That might have made it easier for them. "Go on," Mr. Grayson said, stepping aside and gesturing toward the road. "You don't belong here anymore." The word landed harder than the rest. Belong. She took a step, then another. Each one felt like permission she did not have to give. That was when the sound of hooves cut through the air. It was steady, unhurried. A single rider approached from the west, slowing as he took in the scene ahead. The horse stopped a short distance away. The man stayed mounted, his posture relaxed, his attention sharp. Abel had been riding the fence line, checking posts after the last storm. He had no reason to stop here, no obligation. He could already tell how this would end if he kept going. He did not keep going. "What's this?" he asked. Mrs. Grayson turned, surprised, then smiled. "Just settling matters." Abel's gaze moved past her, settled on Lena. He noticed the dust on her feet, the way she held her arms close as if bracing against a cold that wasn't there. He noticed the bag on the ground. Mr. Grayson straightened. "This doesn't concern you." Abel nodded once. Maybe not. He dismounted anyway. The ground felt solid under his boots. He stepped between them and Lena without touching anyone, without raising his voice. It wasn't a challenge. It was a decision. "You're done," he said. Mrs. Grayson's smile tightened. "You don't get to decide that." Abel did not argue. He did not explain. He turned his head slightly, just enough that Lena could see his face. "You don't have to stand here," he said to her. "You can come with me." No rush, no pity, just an open path where there had been none. Lena hesitated. Leaving meant accepting that what had been taken would not be returned. Staying meant something worse. She picked up the bag. Mr. Grayson scoffed. "You're making a mistake." Abel met his eyes. "She's making a choice." That ended it. Abel mounted, reached down and took the bag from her so she could climb up behind him. The horse shifted once, then settled. No one moved to stop them. As they rode away, Lena did not look back. The road stretched ahead, uncertain and bare. But for the first time since her husband's death, the ground beneath her felt steady. Behind them, the Graysons faded into the dust. The house did not announce itself. It sat low against the land, wood darkened by years of wind and sun, as if it had learned how to endure without asking for attention. Abel led the horse into the small yard, tied the reins, and helped Lena down without a word. His touch was brief and careful, like he was aware she might pull away. "Inside," he said, not as a command, just information. Lena followed him across the porch. Each step felt unreal, as if she were crossing into someone else's life. The door opened easily. Inside, the air was cool and smelled faintly of soap and clean wood. Nothing fancy. A table, 2 chairs, a stove, shelves lined with simple dishes. Everything had a place, and everything was used. Abel set her bag near the wall. "You can sit," he said. She did. The chair did not wobble. That small detail almost undid her. He filled a cup with water and set it in front of her. Then another, this one with food. Bread, stew, warm, real. Lena stared at it, waiting for the catch. None came. Abel moved around the room, quiet and unhurried. He washed his hands, poured coffee for himself, and leaned against the counter. He did not watch her closely. He did not wait for thanks. When she finally took a bite, her hands shook. She hated that they did. She focused on the simple act of chewing, swallowing, breathing. The food settled in her stomach like a weight pulling her back into her body. "You don't have to eat fast," Abel said, not looking at her. "There's more." She nodded once. After a while, he stepped into the back room and returned with folded clothes. Clean, plain, her size or close enough. "There's a wash basin out back," he said. "You can clean up if you want." If you want. The words stayed with her as he stepped outside, giving her the room without being asked. The door closed softly behind him. Lena sat alone at the table listening to the quiet. No raised voices, no sharp footsteps, just the faint sound of wind moving through grass. She changed slowly, washed the dust from her skin. When she looked at herself in the small mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. Still tired, still hollow, but not exposed. That night, Abel showed her a small room with a narrow bed and a single window. "You can stay as long as you need," he said. She waited for the rest of the sentence. It never came. "Thank you," she said finally. The words felt thin, inadequate. He nodded. Sleep. In the dark, Lena lay awake, counting the sounds of the house. The boards shifted once. Something small moved outside. Nothing threatened. Nothing demanded. Morning came quietly. Abel was already up. Coffee simmered. He set a plate on the table and stepped back. "You don't owe me anything," he said, as if reading the tension in her shoulders. "I won't ask questions." Her throat tightened. "Why?" He considered that for a moment. "Because you didn't ask to be pushed into the road." That was all. Days passed like that. Abel worked the ranch. Lena stayed inside at first, moving from chair to window, window to door. No one told her what she should be doing. No one told her what she was expected to become. She waited for rules to appear. They never did. Abel spoke when there was something to say, and stayed quiet when there wasn't. He did not press her to talk about her husband or the Graysons or the road. He did not treat her like she was fragile. He treated her like someone who needed space. One afternoon, she stepped onto the porch without realizing she was doing it. The sun warmed her face. The land stretched out in front of her, open and calm. Abel noticed but said nothing. That night, she slept without waking. For the first time since everything had been taken from her, Lena felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Not hope. Not yet. Safety. And it came without conditions. The change did not come all at once. At first, Lena only watched. She stood near the window while Abel worked the yard, her hands folded, her weight shifting from one foot to the other. The days were quiet, marked by small sounds. The creak of a gate, the clink of a bucket, the low call of animals answering one another across the field. One morning, Abel set a watering can near the door before heading out. "If you feel like it," he said, as if it were nothing at all. Lena stared at the can long after he left. It would have been easy to ignore it. Easier still to tell herself she wasn't ready. Instead, she picked it up. The soil near the house was dry and cracked. She poured the water slowly, careful not to waste a drop. The smell of damp earth rose, familiar and grounding. Her hands remembered the work even when her mind hesitated. The next day, she fed the chickens. The day after that, she helped mend a loose board on the fence. Abel showed her once, then stepped back. He did not hover. He trusted her to learn again. They worked side by side without talking much. When they did speak, it was about practical things. What needed fixing? What could wait? Lena liked that. Words had taken too much from her already. The unexpected came with the storm. The sky darkened faster than it should have. Wind pressed hard against the land, bending grass flat. Abel was moving the animals closer to the barn when he heard a sound that did not belong to the wind. A thin, desperate cry. He turned, scanning the slope near the far fence. A ewe stood still, too still, her head low. Near her feet, barely visible, was a newborn lamb, wet and struggling. Abel cursed under his breath and started toward them. Lena saw it at the same time. For a moment, she froze. The wind howled louder, pulling at her clothes, pushing old memories to the surface. She remembered another storm years ago, another helpless moment. She had chosen then to step back, to let others decide, to believe it wasn't her place. The result of that choice still lived inside her. Abel reached the fence and realized he couldn't do it alone in time. "Lena," he called. Not sharp, but urgent. The word hit her harder than the wind. She had a choice. Stay safe on the porch, or step into the chaos. Her feet moved before her doubt could stop them. She ran. Mud slicked under her boots. Rain soaked through her sleeves. When she reached Abel, he handed her the lamb without explanation. It was lighter than she expected, fragile but warm, its heart beat fast against her palms. "Hold him steady," Abel said. "Don't let the cold get to him." She nodded, breathing through the fear. Her hands steadied. She had held life before. She remembered now. They worked together, wordless and focused. Abel guided the ewe. Lena shielded the lamb from the wind with her body, bending low, blocking the rain the way Abel had blocked the road days earlier. For a moment, everything narrowed to that task. No past, no future. Just the weight of responsibility and the quiet decision to see it through. When they finally reached the barn, the storm had already begun to break. Rain softened, wind eased. Abel settled the lamb beside its mother and watched until the small body stilled, breathing even and calm. Lena leaned against the wall, chest tight, hands shaking again. This time she did not hate them for it. Abel looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since she arrived. "You did good," he said. The words landed deeper than praise. They sounded like recognition. That night, Lena sat alone at the table, drying her hair by the lamp. Her thoughts drifted backward, not to the road, but further, to the choices she had made to stay quiet, to stay small, believing that was strength. She understood now how wrong that had been. Helping did not mean surrendering herself. It meant showing up. The next morning, she stepped outside without hesitation. From then on, the work became shared. They planted together, fixed what broke, rested when the day allowed it. Sometimes Abel would glance her way, measuring something unseen, then look back to his task. A partnership took shape without being named. Lena felt tired in a way that made sense. Useful, grounded, the land responded to her care. So did she. She still carried her past with her, but it no longer decided her every step. And that changed everything. The first sign came from the ridge to the east. Lena noticed it while hanging laundry, the wind pulling at the fabric. A shape moved where nothing usually did, then another. Horses, 3 of them. Her chest tightened, not with surprise but recognition. Abel saw them too. He did not reach for anything. He did not rush. He simply closed the gate to the lower field and walked back toward the house at the same steady pace he always used. "They're coming," Lena said. "I know," he answered. The riders stopped at the edge of the yard like they owned it. Mr. Grayson dismounted first, brushing dust from his coat. Mrs. Grayson stayed on her horse, her posture straight, her eyes already searching for Lena. "There you are," she called, smiling as if greeting an old friend. "We've been looking everywhere." Lena did not move. Mr. Grayson stepped forward. "This arrangement is over," he said, addressing Abel as if Lena weren't standing right there. "She belongs with her husband's family. You've had your time." Abel stood between them and the house, hands loose at his sides. "She's not going anywhere," he said. Mrs. Grayson laughed softly. "You don't get to decide that." Abel met her gaze without blinking. "I already did." The air felt tight, stretched thin. Lena felt the pull of old habits, the urge to shrink back, to let someone else speak for her. She stayed where she was. Mr. Grayson's voice hardened. "You're interfering in matters that don't concern you." Abel nodded once. "They concern me now." Mrs. Grayson leaned forward slightly. "Lena," she said, her tone gentle, practiced. "You don't owe this man loyalty. Come back with us. We'll see that you're taken care of." Taken care of. The words carried weight, memory, warning. Lena looked at Abel. He did not look back at her. He did not need to. He had placed himself here knowing the risk, knowing the cost. He was not speaking for her. He was standing with her. "I'm staying," Lena said. The sentence surprised her with its steadiness. Mr. Grayson scoffed. "You don't know what you're choosing." Abel finally turned his head toward him. "She knows enough." The third rider shifted, uneasy. This was not going the way they expected. There were no raised voices, no fear to feed on. Abel stepped forward, just one step. Not toward them, but into the space between what they wanted and what they would get. "You're done here," he said. "You won't come back." Mrs. Grayson's smile faded. "You can't stop us." Abel's voice stayed calm. "I already have." He did not threaten. He did not list consequences. He simply stood, solid as the land beneath his boots. Silence stretched. Wind moved through the grass. The horses stamped, restless. Lena realized something then. The Graysons had always relied on noise, on pressure, on people stepping aside. Abel did neither. Mr. Grayson glanced at his wife. She hesitated, calculating. There were witnesses now, even if none stood close. This place was not theirs. The ground did not answer to them. "This isn't over," she said finally. Abel did not reply. After a moment, Mr. Grayson turned away. He mounted his horse without ceremony. The others followed. Dust rose, then settled. They left without looking back. Lena let out a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Her legs felt weak, but she stayed standing. Abel turned to her then. "They won't return," he said. She believed him. They stood together for a long moment. The land quiet again. Nothing had been broken. Nothing needed fixing. That night, Lena slept deeply. No dreams, no sudden waking. The past had come for her, and it had been sent away. Time changed the ranch in small, honest ways. The fence line grew straighter where it had once leaned. The garden widened, one careful row at a time. Inside the house, a second chair was pulled closer to the table, not as a gesture, just because it made sense. Lena marked the seasons by what needed doing. Spring meant planting and repairing. Summer meant long days and quiet evenings on the porch. When fall came, the air cooled, and the land seemed to breathe easier. She learned the rhythms of the place the way she once learned the rhythms of another life, slowly and without forcing it. Abel noticed things but rarely commented on them. He fixed what broke. He left space where space was needed. When Lena took on more work, he accepted it without surprise, as if he had known all along she would. They did not talk about what they were building. They built it anyway. Some nights they sat on the porch with coffee gone cold, watching the sky fade from light to dark. Other nights they worked side by side until the lamp burned low. Their conversations stayed simple, practical. When silence settled between them, it felt earned, not empty. One afternoon, Lena found the cracked teacup while cleaning a shelf. It had belonged to her, brought from her old home in the bag she carried from the road. The crack ran clean through the side. She almost threw it away. Instead, she fixed it. The repair was imperfect. The line showed. But the cup held water. She filled it with wildflowers from the edge of the field and set it on the table. Abel noticed it later and nodded once, as if acknowledging something important had been placed there. Winter came and went. Snow dusted the hills and melted again. The house held. Lena still carried her past with her. Some mornings it felt heavier than others. Certain sounds, certain smells could still pull her back. But the weight no longer bent her in half. She had work to do. Abel never asked her to stay. He never asked her to leave. That quiet respect became its own promise. One evening, after a long day, Lena stood in the doorway and watched Abel repair a hinge on the porch. His movements were steady, familiar. He worked the way he lived, without waste, without display. "You know," she said, testing the words, "this place feels different now." He glanced up. "Better?" She thought for a moment. "Like it belongs to both of us." Abel returned to the hinge. "It does." That was all. The house changed after that, not in structure, but in meaning. Lena hung a curtain she liked. Abel added a shelf where it was needed. Neither asked permission. Home stopped being a question. One morning, Lena stood on the porch with the repaired teacup in her hands. Steam rose gently. The land stretched out in front of her, open and steady. She realized something then that surprised her. She was not waiting anymore. Not for permission. Not for rescue. Not for the past to explain itself. She had been given safety once, freely. She had chosen to stay. She had chosen to build. Abel stepped beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. He did not speak. He did not need to. The wind moved through the grass. The house stood firm behind them. Some stories end with words. This one ended with a place, held together by quiet strength, shared work, and a simple truth that lasted longer than fear. And if someone ever came down that road again, broken and unsure, the porch would be there, waiting.